Hi and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be looking at the Garage Therapy Snow Foam here, which of course is a very highly anticipated product. Garage Therapy did very kindly send this out to me, but as always, going to be honest with this review and really try and put the product through its paces and sort of push it as much as I can so you guys at home can see the kind of results that I'm getting. So just briefly about the products, what Garage Therapy have tried to do here, sort of reading the back of the label, is develop something that's very powerful in terms of cleaning capabilities, but also something that keeps in mind how aggressive it is on the paintwork and looking more at kind of the long-term use of it. So it's non-caustic, phosphate and NTA free, and it also does have rust inhibitors. So looking at the dilution ratios, so they give you information whether you want to work in just general ratios in millilitres, so say add 50ml to 450ml of water, and they also give you a rough kind of PIR estimate. So I appreciate that the instructions have offered something for those who do like PIR and those who really hate it. And also you can use this in a pump sprayer if you want to instead of a foam cannon, but here I'm just going to be using it in a traditional sort of foam cannon. So what I've done here is try to kind of push the limits of this product. So the first test that I'm starting with is looking at the thickness and dwell time of the product on my car. So I'm not looking at cleaning in particular on my vehicle as it doesn't often get too dirty and it is very well maintained. So you can see here how dirty my car is. There's sort of a bit of bird poo. Obviously there was light dust before I rinsed it. This is after rinsing, but yeah, nothing too bad here. So I tried a few different ratios just to kind of see the consistency of the products really. So as you'll remember, they say around 1:10 ratio and you can work upwards, but I thought, do you know what, I'm going to work the other way and see what kind of experience you get when using the products in a less concentrated way. So first off, starting with a 1:20 ratio. So for those who do like PIR, that is actually 0.5% roughly with my setup. So I've got an MJJC foam cannon 2 and also a Karcher K4. So you'll see the kind of experience with the product here, and of course I've applied it and then sped up the footage and you'll see it to around the 5-minute mark. So Garage Therapy have intended this product to dwell for 5 to 6 minutes. So you'll see here that it's one that you apply and it is quite thick on application, but it doesn't hang around for hours and hours, which is good because it doesn't sort of hang around on your driveway as well, but it does slide off the car reasonably quickly. So you can see, if you might have to rewind this, but the bird poo flew off really quickly when I concentrated the pressure washer on after snow foam in the car. And of course you can see when I apply the products in the various different concentrations, the more you kind of layer your foam cannon over the top, the thicker it becomes, but it also does tend to drag it a little bit more quickly, so just one even layer is probably how you're going to get on best with this product. So you'll notice as we're going through the different ratios, so I'm working up in terms of increasing the product concentration here, and you can see that there's not a dramatic amount of difference in terms of both the dwell time and the foam thickness here. With all the different ratios that I've used here, the product is still very thick, but also does tend to fall off reasonably quickly. There are of course things that are going to affect dwell time and foam thickness, so dwell time, temperature and things like that are going to be your main concern. But with the foam thickness, the pressure washer that you're using, the foam cannon that you're using, so here I'm using an MJJC Foam Cannon Pro 2, and that is, probably as most people know by now, a foam cannon that does produce very thick foam, particularly in comparison to some others out there. And also water hardness can be a consideration when dictating how thick the foam is. So I live in a soft water area, which does lend itself to producing thicker foam than potentially someone who lives in a harder water area. So I've got some images of course here to compare the different sort of dwell times. So you can see the top images are after that 5-minute point and the bottom are all at 3-minute point, and you can see throughout the different ratios there's not a dramatic amount of difference here. And also as we go through the sort of shots of the foam thickness at the different ratios, it does increase slightly. So there is a difference, but nothing too dramatic, and you can see it on this final image probably a little bit better here. The 1:10 does look a little bit more sort of shaving foam like compared to the 1:20, but all of them are pretty thick. Now personally I see snow foams as products that are used on cars that have a decent layer of protection on there and aren't really dirty. Using it on a car that is super dirty, no protection on there, I personally think when you use a snow foam in that situation that you're usually setting yourself up for disappointment. So that is exactly the scenario that I decided to test this product in next, just to see whether it was offering me anything more than what I typically would expect from a snow foam. So first up, to actually demonstrate this, we've got this Renault Scenic, which hasn't been washed in a very good while, and you can see zoomed in here what the traffic film and dirt looks like. What I did was rinse the car down, as Garage Therapy recommend, and then after that I cleaned the wheels basically and let the car sort of air dry before moving on to the product application, and of course you can see what the traffic film was looking at this point. So here I decided to go for actually a 1:6 ratio, so for anyone who likes PIR, that's around 1.5% in my foam cannon. So what I actually did was just wet the panel where I was going to apply the snow foam, and applied it, and then of course let it dwell, and I'll show you the sped up footage of it dwelling here. You can see when you lay the product over that it does become thicker and does tend to drop off maybe slightly faster than if you just have one even layer. You can also see that there's a decent bit of overspray when I use this product onto sort of the right hand side of the door here. So once I'd rinsed off the product, I just left the car alone for about half an hour just to dry off, as I find it's always a little bit easier to see how effectively a product's cleaned when the panel is actually dry. And here you can see the results here. So remember when I said that there was some overspray and some kind of splatter onto the right hand side? Well, that is what you see in here. And I thought that was very, very interesting and really did kind of show how effective the product had cleaned. So as we kind of pan from right to left here, you can see where the spray and the splatter starts coming in. Obviously the left hand side is the cleaner section that's been treated. Now of course there's still a decent layer of traffic film here. This is a car which I wouldn't even usually bother using snow foam on. I'd go straight in with either Decon Shampoo in a sprayer or Surfex, something that's heavy and not particularly LSP safe. But you can still see that it did have a decent effect at removal here. So I know some people do like a swipe test, and this car's got pretty knackered paintwork anyway, so I was quite happy to do it here. And they're usually quite hard to get quite accurate in terms of, obviously pressure variation is going to affect how much actually ends up on these cotton pads. However, I tried to make it as even as possible, so I sort of patted it down onto the wet panel so it kind of stuck on there itself, and then just grabbed the edge of it and dragged it along so to kind of reduce the amount of pressure variation, just to make it a little bit easier to see a kind of more direct comparison. So I did that at a kind of upper and lower section of the panel. And here you can see what the cotton pad actually looked like. So of course there is still traffic film there, but there was a considerable amount of removal when kind of looking at this. And obviously, as demonstrated by the kind of splatter effect and the panning from right to left, hopefully you can see that there was a decent amount of traffic film removal here. So I also had a second car that I wanted to kind of try this on. This one I'd say wasn't quite as dirty, so here is what it looked like before rinsing. It wasn't, there wasn't as much sort of traffic film on here. It was still quite dirty, but generally a little bit more dusty. This car also didn't have any protection on there, so I wanted to test the product as much as I could here as well. So rather than using it at a 1:6, which isn't even the highest that you can use it at, I actually went and used it at a 1:10 ratio. So I did that on kind of the front part of each side of the car. Let it dwell again for 5 minutes before rinsing it off. So I applied both these once the car had actually been rinsed. So here you can see the images of what the different sort of sections of the panel look like. So on the right hand side we've got the foam on each side. Again, a considerable amount of traffic film removal I can see here after the panel had been dried. Again, not total removal. These are vehicles that I would typically go in with something a lot heavier here. So I was happy that the product did have very good cleaning capabilities when pushed to limits where most snow foams just wouldn't be able to cope with. So I appreciate that I could have used plenty of different concentrations here. I could have dialed it up on these panels, and of course different levels of protection and things like that. There's so many different variables and different cars you can test these products on. What I've got from this testing, which was obviously the first time that I've used the product, is that the cleaning capability is very strong and exceeds my expectations personally of a snow foam. This is a product that I would be very comfortable using on my car whenever I wash it, and that's sort of the real test for me, is whether I actually like a pre-wash or not. I don't take risks with my own car, and if a pre-wash isn't effective, I won't use it on my car, because I really don't want to wreck the clear coat on it. So the next steps for me are to continue using this product and see how I get on with it. I appreciate that this video isn't the most comprehensive in the world. I've tried to test it in a few different situations just so you can see what kind of results I've got from it so far. But of course, I'm going to continue to use it and show you my results there. I will do that on videos, but I also do it quite a lot on my Instagram for different kind of products. So if you're interested in checking that out, then of course leave a link in the description to that. If you have enjoyed this video, it would be fantastic if you could drop it a like. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.